All right, welcome back, everybody, to our Friday night voting session. Appreciate everybody working late. We will jump right into it with HB7, Delegate Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Housing and Real Property Subcommittee recommendation was favorable with amendments. I think that they did great work on this. I would like to applaud Chairman Holmes' efforts as well as Chair Corman. We've been holding this for a couple of weeks to make sure we wanted to get all the amendments right. But as amended, the bill establishes the Housing Innovation Pilot Program and a related fund with the DHCD. The purposes of the pilot program are to, one, create opportunities for the counties to increase the volume of housing production, and number two, reward counties that are pursuing innovative solutions to the problem of housing scarcity. There are a number of amendments that the committee made, and then I have one separate one that I'm going to move secondly. But the committee amendments, the first one's technical. The second one expands the purpose of the funds to include providing loans for county governments. So in other words, not only to public housing authorities. That amendment also alters some of the funding priorities to change them from sort of requirements to priorities. And it removes a requirement that that it has to be a 1-to-1 match. And the amendment also requires DHC to basically do a 3-county pilot to select 3 projects to receive assistance from the pilot program that are each in a different jurisdiction. And for fiscal years 2026 through 2029, the amendment requires the governor to include in the annual operating or capital budget bill an appropriation of $5 million to the fund. So I will move the amendments.
Amendments have been moved and seconded. Are there questions on the amendments? All in favor of the amendments, please signify by saying aye. Does anyone need to record the negative? The amendments pass.
I have an amendment. Yeah, I have an amendment at the desk.
Amendment number 1.
I actually do have I have a number too. Yeah. So this is just a lot of people probably are wondering, like, where is the money coming to pay for this, which is a totally valid question. The answer is that it looks like what the Appropriations Committee is going to do is move some money around in the capital budget to accommodate this program. And that raised some concerns with some of the advocates who benefit from existing housing programs. Now, we're not taking money away from housing. We're basically just moving money from one housing fund to another. But we wanted to make sure everyone felt good about this, including the department. So the amendment I'm proposing now specifies that basically we don't want this money to be just sitting in a fund not used when it can otherwise be put out on the street. So what this amendment says is that if money has not been committed within a year of a fiscal year, and it's in this fund and it's sitting and it hasn't been committed to a project, then it will revert back to the Rental Housing Works program, which is a fund that's already up and running. So that's what the amendment does. I move it.
Amendment's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this amendment? All in favor of this amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Amendment passes. Oh, sorry, you're opposed to the amendment, Delegate Baker? Okay.
Yeah, and before thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I guess should I make a statement about the bill before I move it or move it first? What's your preference?
Go ahead. Just make it.
Okay. I just will say, other than thanking everyone that was involved with this, I just want to sort of specify what exactly we're doing here because it was confusing with the different layered amendments. We're creating a new pilot program. It's called an innovation fund in DHCD to reward counties that are pursuing innovative solutions to the housing crisis. Now, what do we mean by innovation? Really, what we're rewarding here is fiscal responsibility. As you all know, we have a huge structural deficit in this state, and we are trying to allocate these precious capital dollars in a way that they will go the furthest. And so we want to reward counties that are doing things that will stretch the dollars and create as many units as possible. That's what this program is about. I think it'll succeed, but if it fails, it eventually expires in 5 years. So I appreciate everyone's help, and I move the bill.
Second.
Bill's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the bill? We'll do that after we vote. Any discussion on the bill? Delegate Naraki.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This could be either for Delegate Stewart or Chairman Holmes. How does this bill now fit with the amendments in with the governor's legislative package, with the housing package, with the agencies we could be potentially creating there and things like that? Just trying to understand how that would work.
Yeah, it's a good question. So I don't know exactly what we're going to do with the governor's bill, so it's a little bit of a difficult question to answer. But what the governor's bill is mostly seeking to do is to fast track and to allow more density bonuses for certain types of projects that are near metro, et cetera, et cetera. What this bill does is reallocate funding within DHCD to try to send to counties that are doing cool stuff. So there could be some synergies, like for example, there could be some projects that receive money under this that also get some nice perks from the governor's bill, depending on what we do, but they're not necessarily super tightly aligned. What I will say is that the way that the way to think about this affordability issue in both the governor's bill and in this bill is we as a committee have sort of a choice to make. Should we always strive to shoot for the highest amount of affordability in every single project? Or should we do, as this bill does, something along more of a public-private partnership that's mixed income in nature? That's what we're really trying to prioritize here. Is we don't want concentration of poverty in certain areas of the state. And so what this bill is about, distinct from some other types of programs that this state has funded in the past, is trying to prioritize fiscal responsibility, public-private partnerships, and mixed income developments rather than concentrating poverty. So some of those goals dovetail with what the governor is trying to do, but it's a little bit premature for me to predict exactly how they'll overlap.
Sure. Thank you, Delegate.
Thanks.
And Delegate, just to be clear, based on Delegate Naraki's question, the CDE we might set up, the Office of Tenant, whatever it's called, we might set up, nothing to do with this bill. This is DHCD, which will continue to exist, whatever we do with the governor's bill.
Correct. The other two bills have nothing to do with this.
Okay, terrific. Any further discussion on the bill? Okay, all in favor of the bill, please signify by saying aye. Anyone wish to be recorded in opposition? Delegate Jacobs, Delegate Otto, Delegate Silaberte, Delegate Naraki, Delegate Morgan, Delegate Baker, and Delegate Silaberte. I am not counting, so I'm not going to be able to give you the count. Okay, does anyone wish to be added as a pile-on co-sponsor? Vice Chair Boyce, Delegate Holmes, Delegate Love, Delegate Ruth, Delegate Allen, Delegate Addison, Delegate Foley, Delegate Lehman, Delegate Stein, and Delegate Healy. Would you like to read those back?
Okay, Boyce, Holmes, Love, Ruth, Allen, Addison, Foley, Lehman, Stein, and Healy.
Everybody good? Okay, we'll move on to HB 107, Delegate Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. HB 107 came out of the subcommittee favorable with amendments. As amended, HB 107 establishes a statewide authorization for local jurisdictions to use bus lane monitoring systems to enforce the prohibition against driving a motor vehicle in a dedicated bus lane. In addition, it establishes new prohibitions against standing or parking in a bus lane. The subcommittee amendments are: number one, establish certain privacy protections governing images recorded by a bus lane monitoring system, and two, strikes the work group on curb space management. Move the amendments.
Someone want a second?
Second. Sorry.
Thank you. The amendment's been moved and seconded. Discussion on the amendments. Okay, all in favor of the amendments, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed to the amendments? Delegate Love, amendments passed. Delegate Love.
Move the bill as amended, Mr. Chair.
Bill's moved and seconded. Discussion on the bill. Okay, all in favor of HB 107 as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Does anyone wish to be recorded in the negative? Delegate Jacobs, Delegate Otto, Delegate Silaberte, Delegate Naraki, Delegate Morgan, and Delegate Baker. Bill passes. Does anyone wish to be added as a co-sponsor? Please raise your hand. Vice Chair Boyce, Delegate Addison, Delegate Stewart, and Delegate Healy.
Boyce, Addison, Stewart, Healy.
Everybody good? Okay, we'll move on to HB 212, Delegate Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. HB 212 came out of the subcommittee favorable with amendments. As amended, HB 212 establishes a pilot program authorizing the use of noise abatement monitoring systems in Anne Arundel, Montgomery, and Prince George's County to enforce motor vehicle noise requirements. The subcommittee amendments, number one, establish the pilot program and limit the use of the systems to 3 per county. Number two, alter the maximum civil penalty to $75. Number three, alter the reporting requirements. And number four, shorten the duration of the pilot program to 2 years. Move the amendments.
Does anyone want to second the amendments? All right, the amendments have been moved and seconded. Discussion on the amendments. All in favor of the amendments, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed to the amendments? Okay. Delegate Love?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Move the bill as amended.
Bill's moved and seconded. Discussion on this bill? Okay, all in favor of HB 212 as amended, please signify by saying aye. Does anyone wish to be recorded in the negative? Delegate Jacobs, Delegate Otto, Delegate Ciliberti, Delegate Naraki, Delegate Morgan, and Delegate Baker. Does anyone wish to be added as a co-sponsor? Delegate Guyton, Delegate Stewart. Everybody good? All right, HB 239, Vice Chair Boyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee recommendation is favorable with amendments as amended HB 239. A departmental bill alters and updates definitions, regulatory requirements, and fees associated with the State Boat Act. Amendment number one strikes vessel propelled only by sale from the requirement to obtain a certificate of boat number, and two, change the effective date to October 1st, 2024. Move the amendments.
Second.
Amendments have been moved and seconded. Discussion on the amendments. All in favor of the amendments, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed to the amendments? Vice Chair Boyce.
Move the bill as amended.
Second.
Bill's moved and seconded. Discussion on the bill. Okay,
There's substantial fees.
sorry, Delegate Otto, I just want you to turn your mic on.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's substantial fees in these raising the boat.
Yes, Delegate.
Yeah.
So the current fee, as you know, is $24. We've heard Delegate Jacobs lament, is $24 for all boats, no matter the size. And this changes it to a tiered approach for boats. In particular, the fee is every 2 years, but now, for instance, a boat that is 16 feet in length and equipped with a 7.5 horsepower motor or less is $20 for every 2 years. So that's $10 a year. So to be fair, yes, this is an increase in fees, but it's a tiered fee and a fee that has not been increased since about 1994.
So
And-
what about a 30-foot boat?
A 30-foot boat, so a vessel 32 feet to less than 45 feet in length is $100, and that's every 2 years.
Okay.
That's you. We
Thank
want
you,
to charter
Mr.
Jay's boat so
Chairman. I
we
didn't
can
want
pay
to
for them.
prolong things, but
No problem.
Further discussion on the bill. Okay, all in favor of HB 239 as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone wish to be recorded in the negative? We're gonna get you any of these today? Delegate Jacobs, Delegate Otto, Delegate Ciliberti, Delegate Naraki, Delegate Morgan, and Delegate Baker. Does anyone wish to be added as a co-sponsor?
Nope, not on a departmental bill.
I do not see any. All right. Moving on to HB 245. I'm sure this will go smoothly. Delegate Stein.
Yes. The subcommittee recommendation is favorable with amendments. As amended, the bill makes various changes to MDE's regulatory authority, the special funds it uses to carry out statutory duties, and the fees that generate revenue for those special funds. Amendment number one is technical. Number two clarifies the circumstances under which MDE may charge a fee for processing and issuing septic and well permits and sets the parameters for the fee amounts. Number three alters the per barrel fee assessed on oil transferred into the state. Number four establishes an additional application fee for projects proposed in a high quality watershed. Number five alters certain fees for renewing or modifying a surface mining permit and establishes certain limits on the amount that the department may charge for a renewal or modification. Amendment number six provides that the bill may not be construed to expand the definition or scope of what is considered a dam under state law and regulation. Move the amendments, Mr. Chair.
Amendments have been moved and seconded. Discussion on the amendments. All in favor of the amendments, please signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed to the amendments? Okay, amendments passed. Delegate Stein.
Move the bill as amended.
Bill's moved and seconded. Any discussion on the bill? Delegate Otto, I just want to make sure
Yeah.
they light up your mic. There you go.
How did the amendment change those fees on the surface mining?
Chair, I will have to ask counsel to explain the specifics of that.
Maybe I should have asked when we went through the amendments.
The permit modification fee and renewal fee is for the per acre charge is being increased to $75 per acre. And there is a cap on the fees that may be charged, and it's phased in from $10,000. And then I think in fiscal 2029, the ultimate cap is at $12,000.
Thank you.
Delegate James, did you also have a question?
Well, I had a similar question. I've heard from constituent businesses in my district that are concerned with the mining fee. Because there are some years they don't even do any surface mining whatsoever, but they still have to renew that. And they felt like the personnel and the timing of what has been taking place was adequate, and that this was very concerning, this increase. So my concerns are similar to what I think Delegate Otto heard.
Delegate Stein, do you want to respond to that or let it lie?
I'll let it go. Thanks.
Okay, Delegate Allen, do you have a point?
I have a question for Delegate Stein. The dam portion, does this apply to dams built by non-human architects?
Mr. Chair, if the Beaver Believer Law passes, then I believe so.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, HB 245 as amended. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone need to be reported in opposition? Let's see if I can guess without even looking. Delegate Jacobs, Delegate Otto, Delegate Silaberde, Delegate Naraki, Delegate Morgan, and Delegate Baker. Can we skip the pile-on? All right. HB 256, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee report is favorable with amendments. Essentially, this does turn this from a work group to essentially a study as amended. HB 256 requires the Maryland Department of Emergency Management in consultation with interested stakeholders to study and make recommendations regarding the establishment of a waterway incident notification system. The department must submit an interim report and final report of its findings and recommendations to the governor and the General Assembly by December 1st, 2024 and December 1st, 2025, respectively. The bill takes effect June 1st, 2024 and terminates June 30th, 2026. Subcommittee amendment alters work group into a departmental study. Move the amendment.
Amendments have been moved and seconded. Discussion on the amendments. All for the amendments, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed to the amendments? Vice Chair Boyce.
Bill is amended.
Bill's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the bill? This might be the one to break your streak. Let's see. House Bill 256 is amended. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Does anyone wish to be recorded in the negative? We did it. Does anyone wish to be added as a co-sponsor? Delegate Morgan, Delegate Lehman. Delegate Morgan and Delegate Lehman.
Morgan and Lane.
Great. We will move on to HB 285. Delegate Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let's see if we can keep this streak moving. The committee's recommendation was favorable. The bill extends the termination date of a bill we had last year, 2 years ago, HB 1097, which establishes a task force on property appraisal and evaluation equity. And the bill extends the termination date from June 30th, 2024 to December 31st, 2024. The bill also extends the date for the required report to be submitted from October 31st, 2023 to October 31st of this year, 2024. And the bill takes effect June 1st of this year. The bill has no fiscal impact and there are no additional fees. And there are no committee amendments. Move the bill, Mr. Chair.
Bill's moved and seconded. Any discussion on this bill? Okay, all in favor of HB 285, please signify by saying aye. Does anyone need to be recorded in the negative? Okay, bill passes, no amendments, so there's no pile on despite how much we love Delegate Holmes' bill. HB 345, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee is favorable with amendments as amended. HB 345 modifies the Endangered Species of Fish Conservation Act and the Non-Game and Endangered Species Conservation Act to, one, require that a petition proposing to remove a species from or add a species to the list of endangered species and threatened species includes specified information, and two, require DNR to periodically review and, if warranted, update the list of endangered species and threatened species, and three, modify the definitions of fish and wildlife under the Act's subcommittee amendment, clarifies the term wildlife. Move the amendment.
Second.
Amendments been moved and seconded. Discussion on the amendments, Delegate Guyton.
Y'all, I know it's late. I care about this bill a lot, so I just wonder, Madam Vice Chair, can you tell us what the difference is then now between the original bill and the amendments?
I think it just clarifies what wildlife.
But it didn't really change any of the
No.
provisions, it just
No, ma'am.
reword, okay. Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Further discussion on the bill? Delegate Otto.
This is putting in statute what their existing regulations are and how they're following it. It's not really changing a lot.
No.
Is that
Just
my
clarifying the definition. So to the bill's point that should one want to petition, for instance, proposing or removing a species from the list of endangered species or the list of threatened species under the I don't know how many times I can say species without spitting on myself. Endangered Species Conservation Act or non-game and the species must include, and then it gives a description of all the things that must happen. And I think through that process, they probably needed to clarify wildlife.
Okay.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. On the bill as amended, all in favor, or excuse, yes, on the bill as amended species, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone need to report in opposition? Okay, bill passes. This has amendments. Does anyone want to be added as a co-sponsor? Delegate Allen, Delegate Guyton.
Oh, yeah.
That's Allen and Dyke.
Okay. HB 240, Madam Vice Chair.
420, sorry, 420. Ooh, give the chair a break. The committee's report is favorable with amendments as amended. The bill requires under certain conditions that the Department of Natural Resources and local governing bodies responsible for the construction of play areas to construct a communication board in newly constructed play areas within a public park or recreation under its jurisdiction. The bill also establishes the Maryland Recreation Communication Board Pilot Program 2, subject to the availability of funding, improve play area accessibility by covering the cost of purchasing and installing communication boards at state and local parks. Up to $100,000 may be used from the Park System Capital Improvements and Acquisition Fund for the pilot program. Amendment number 1 makes technical changes. Amendment number 2 establishes a pilot program as previously described. Please move the amendments.
Second.
Amendments have been moved and seconded. Any discussion of the amendments? Madam Vice Chair, just so I understand, this creates a new permissible use from an existing fund. Is that?
Yes,
fair
if
summary?
that fund goes over, it's kind of mandated appropriation. So every year they either get a certain amount, or if they have, a surplus, then this is going to allow them to use that surplus for this pilot.
Thank you. Any discussion on the amendments? All in favor of the amendments, please signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed to the amendments? Amendments passed. Madam Vice
Move the
Chair.
bill as amended.
Second.
Bill's moving second. Any discussion on the bill? Delegate Rocky.
Madam Vice Chair, is it coming from program open space funds? I'm just trying to understand where the funds
So,
are coming from.
Sure. So the bill authorizes up to $100,000 to make state parks accessible to people with disabilities, but it authorizes up to $100,000 from the pilot of the money, which is already authorized for accessibility improvements, but it doesn't. But this bill does not modify any spending under the first 70 million in the fund. So it only uses the money that goes in excess of that 70 million.
Okay, no, but, okay, so I'm just trying to wrap my
Am I
brain
not
around that.
explaining that correctly?
I think Delganake, as the bill came in, there was a program open space
Okay.
issue, but they found a different
Gotcha.
type
Okay.
of money
Oh, I'm
to
sorry.
avoid the program open
Gotcha.
space issue.
Thank you,
So
Mr.
that
Chair.
was
Yeah,
resolved.
that was yep, thank you.
Further questions or discussion on the bill? Okay, all in favor of HB 420 as amended, please signify by saying aye. Anyone wish to be recorded in opposition? Ciliberti, Naraki, Delegate Baker. Okay, this bill has amendments, so does anyone wish to be added as a co-sponsor? Delegate Allen, Delegate Foley, Delegate Healy. And Delegate Addison, I apologize. Everybody good? Okay, we will move on to HB 486, which I believe Delegate Lehman is handling.
So as amended, House Bill 486 requires the seller of any residential property located within 1 mile of a national priorities list Superfund site to provide a specified addendum to the contract of sale. The amendment expands the proximity of a national priorities list Superfund site from 1/2 mile to 1 mile where a related contract of sale addendum is required. Move the amendment.
Amendments moved and seconded. Discussion on the amendments? Yes, of course, Delegate Morgan.
Thank you, sir. Were the amendments from both the realtors and the building industry incorporated?
Yes, I believe so. Could I get some help from council?
So the realtors wanted a buyer notice, and that was not adopted, but they did adopt the radius expansion from 1/2 mile to 1 mile, which was done because of one of the mapping websites only accounts for 1 mile, like was only visible.
So what was the piece that was excluded?
That was, so the realtors and the Maryland Building Industry Association, they were their testimony was for a buyer notice.
So for the most part, they got what they wanted. You can't say.
Yeah.
I got half.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate Ziegler.
For new and existing construction?
I think it's both.
It's just contracts of sale for
Just,
residential
just
property.
in general, I just want to say aloud, I support the bill, but I do really worry that some very communities that are already struggling could find that it's impossible to sell their house and that they have really essentially lost their only significant valuable asset. Not that, anyway, I just want to say that.
Further discussion on the bill? Okay, all in favor of HB 46 as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Delegate Jacobs, Delegate Otto, Delegate Naraki, Delegate Morgan, and Delegate Baker. We broke the block. Does anyone wish to be added as a co-sponsor? Please raise your hand. Delegate Ruth, Delegate Foley, Delegate Stewart.
Ruth, Foley, Stewart.
Everybody good? All right, HB 697, Delegate Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. HB 697 received a favorable recommendation from the committee. The bill requires each real estate contract submitted by a party of a real estate broker, a non-residential real estate broker, an associate real estate broker, a real estate salesperson, or a non-residential real estate salesperson for use in the sale of a commercial real estate to contain in boldface type a statement that the buyer has the right to select the buyer's own title insurance company, settlement company, and escrow company, or title lawyer. The required statement must also contain in boldface type a statement that the seller may not be prohibited from offering owner financing as a condition of settlement. And in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, what this does is it mirrors, this is for commercial, it mirrors the same language that is in residential contracts for you to be able to select your own title, title company, et cetera. There are no committee amendments, there are no fees, and there are no fiscal impact. Move the bill, Mr. Chair.
Any discussion on HB 697? Okay, all in favor of HB 697, please signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Bill passes. HB 715. Madam Vice Chair.
Mr. Chair, committee recommendation is favorable with amendments. As amended, HB 715 authorizes DNR to issue a lifetime complimentary angler's license, Chesapeake Bay and coastal sports fishing license and hunting license to one, a Maryland resident who certifies that the resident is an American veteran who the U.S. Department of Veterans of, with the, who the U.S. Department of, I think should be with the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, is unemployable, and two, an out-of-state person who certifies that the person is an American veteran who the VA determines to is unemployable and whose state of residence extends similar privileges to out-of-state persons. Committee amendment is technical. Move the amendment.
Second.
Amendment's moved and seconded. I do have a question, Madam Vice Chair. Does this constitute a fee decrease?
That would be correct, Mr. Chair.
Any discussion, Delegate Naraki?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Vice Chair, does this apply to Sika deer if you live out of state?
If you can find them out of state.
All right. All in favor of the amendments, please signify by saying aye.
Right now,
Anyone opposed to the amendments? Amendments passed. Madam Vice Chair.
move the bill as amended.
Second.
HB 715 has been moved as amended. Any discussion on the bill? All in favor of the bill, please signify by saying aye. Anyone wish to be recorded in opposition? Sorry, does anyone wish to be recorded in opposition? You good? Okay, sorry. The bill passes. And does anyone want to be added as a co-sponsor? Delegate Guyton. And Morgan. Thank you, Todd. Guyton and Morgan, great. And Siliverte. Yeah. Yeah, just a reminder, the enforcer over there is gonna stop me from taking folks. We will now turn to HB 782, Delegate Love.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. HB 782 came out of the subcommittee straight favorable. HB 782 authorizes specified leadership officers and the fire police of a volunteer fire company to equip their privately owned vehicles with red or red and white lights or signal devices. The fire police may also choose to equip their privately owned vehicles with red and green lights or signal devices. Move the bill.
Second.
Bill's moved and seconded. Any discussion on the bill, Delegate Stewart?
This just a quick question for the subcommittee chair. Would this apply to golf carts?
If they're fire.
Any further questions? Delegate Foley, you have a new joke?
Does this apply to rat rods?
Right.
Really not hungry enough for this one.
We're good? All right. All in favor of HB 782, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Bill passes. No amendments, so no pile on. HB 841, Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As amended, this bill requires beginning October 1st, 2024, that a water bottle filling station or combined water bottle filling station and drinking fountain be installed in all new construction for which a drinking fountain is required under the current version of the International Plumbing Code or state or local law or regulation. The requirement applies only prospectively and does not apply to any new construction under contract before the bill's effective date. The Maryland Department of Labor must adopt implementing regulations. The Department of the Environment must conduct a related survey on plastic water bottle use by units of state government and institutions of higher education and identify alternative methods for providing drinking water. The amendments, the committee is favorable with amendments. The amendments alter definitions and require the Maryland Department of Labor to adopt implementing regulations rather than the Department of the Environment. Move the amendments.
Amendments have been moved and seconded. Discussion on the amendments. Okay, all in favor of the amendments, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed to the amendments? Amendments passed. Delegate Ruth.
Move the bill as amended.
Bill's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the bill as amended? Okay, all in favor of HB 841 as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone wish to be recorded in the negative? Delegate Jacobs. Delegate Naraki. Delegate Baker. There are amendments to this bill, so does anyone wish to be added as a co-sponsor? Delegate Love. Delegate Lehman. Delegate Stewart. And the vice chair, I apologize.
Delegates Love, Boyce, Stewart, and Lehman.
Great. All right, thank you. HB 857, Madam Vice.
Mr. Chair, 857 is a straight favorable. The bill modifies the hours that an aquaculture leaseholder may harvest shellfish to the hours established by DNR and regulation. The bill correspondingly requires DNR in consultation with the Aquaculture Coordinating Council to establish by regulation the hours of harvesting shellfish within lease areas. Move the bill.
Bill's moved and seconded. Discussion on the bill? Okay. House Bill 857, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Does anyone wish to be recorded in the negative? Okay, bill passes unanimously. No amendments and no pile-on. House Bill 853, Delegate Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, this bill reminds me of the Guinness commercial where they say, brilliant, brilliant. This is a brilliant bill. The entire bill contains one word. The bill came out of the committee favorable, and this bill prohibits a landlord of residential leases from charging a penalty for the late payment of rent that exceeds 5% of the amount of the unpaid rent due to the rental period for which the payment was delinquent. There is no fiscal note and no fees, and there were no amendments to this bill. Move the bill, Mr. Chair.
Question on the amendment, Delegate Baker?
No amendment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Go ahead, Delegate Baker. My mistake.
Yeah, so if a landlord will not accept partial payments, he would be, if your rent's late and your landlord is not willing to accept half of a payment, he still has the ability to put 5% on the full amount of rent, correct?
Well, let me explain to you what the bill says, and I probably would explain it to you. Previously, before this brilliant bill came in, the current language says that the landlord could charge you 5% of the rent, which was not the intent of the current language. Now with the new bill, it says the landlord can only charge you 5% of the unpaid rent.
Well, I understand that. So the
unpaid.
I understand that. Okay, I understand. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So back to my question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If the landlord were not to accept half of a rent payment, because the late fee is going to apply to the monthly rent. So if they are not willing to receive a payment towards the rent, I understand the bill. Are they still allowed to pay or charge 5% for the entire amount of rent because they haven't collected any?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got you.
Yeah. Right.
We good, Delegate Baker?
I think.
Okay. You got about 5 seconds to decide.
No, I'm good.
All in favor of HB 853, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, bill passes. No amendments, so no pile-on. HB 926, our third Griffith bill of the day. Delegate Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill is HB 926, and this bill has no amendments to it. And the bill requires the Maryland Department of Labor, on request by a local jurisdiction in consultation with the AG's office, to provide guidance for the implementation of enforcement of a building codes, building standards in relation to any religious observance, practice, or belief. There are no fees and no fiscal note on this bill. There are no amendments. Move the bill, Mr. Chair.
Bill's moving second. Any discussion on this bill? Okay, House Bill 926. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, bill passes. We have 3 withdrawals. The vote on HB 163 will be construed to cover the other bills. All in favor of withdrawal, please signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Thank you all for your hard work. I know it's been a long day and I know we're heading to a couple long weeks, so have a restful, great weekend. Thank you all.